According to the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, Americans have generated 251 million tons of trash in 2006. From that number, more than half of the garbage gets buried in landfills. It then gets sealed up and never decomposes due to the lack of water and air. Landfills contain 50% methane, a potentially explosive gas, which leaks into the ground and could ignite fires and explosion on landfill property as well as private property. Landfills release one-fourth of all methane into the environment, as well as leak liquids into our groundwater, despite the engineering put into preventing this. When water is exposed to the garbage, the water turns into leachate and can sometimes escape through the clay or plastic lining at the bottom of the landfills. Landfills contain carbon dioxide, methane, volatile organic compounds, hazardous air pollutants, and odorous compounds that can affect public health and the environment. These emissions released into the air can cause a variety of health problems, such as cancer, respiratory irritation, and central nervous system damage. The effects on the environment may also have an effect on the crops we plant and may damage the vegetation. A few of the main contributors of garbage becoming an environmental issue is industrial waste from factories, agriculture, construction, mining operations, oil and gas operations. The amount of garbage produced from these industries add up to an amount of about 14 billion tons per year. There are 3,091 active landfills in the U.S. today and 10,000 old landfills, but it is suspected that there are more abandoned landfills than the estimated 10,000.
So how does a modern landfill work? Imagine a giant plastic bathtub in the ground. Trash is added to the open tub and covered each day with daily cover, such as contaminated soil or ground-up construction debris. As time goes by, more and more trash is piled on, and more highly toxic methane gas builds up as the trash decomposes. This is when you start to get that trash smell. You know the one. Any water that's in the trash, or any rain or snow that seeps through the cover, starts to trickle down through the garbage. When water and waste are mixed, it creates a toxic, poisonous soup called leachate. Leachate contains all the dangerous stuff that's in a lot of what people throw in the trash. The tens of thousands of chemicals, heavy metals, and other toxic materials found in electronics, batteries, prescription drugs, and plastics, just to name a few. Now the leachate, containing these poisons, percolates through the trash and eventually pools at the bottom. One set of pipes collects the liquid and takes it to the collection tank. And another set of pipes collects and diverts the toxic gases. However, only some of the gas gets captured over the life of the landfill. The rest escapes into the air, rancid odor, and airborne toxins that have been shown to travel over 3 miles from a waste site. History has proven that many parts of a landfill system will eventually fail. The collection pipes buried under the garbage will become clogged and eventually break. Liners will be punctured by sharp objects, and the chemicals in leachate will burn holes in the plastic. Even the EPA and Casella's own experts admit all liners leak. If a leak were to be detected, it's too late. You cannot repair a liner once it begins to leak. Small holes become big holes, and eventually the barrier between the waste and groundwater completely fails. How and where the leachate will reach the groundwater is impossible to predict. Hundreds of homes using private wells surround the Southbridge landfill. The next time you take a sip of cool water from the faucet, bathe your kids in the tub, or take that long run in what you hope is healthy fresh air. Think about it. Dirty diapers, broken office furniture, bathroom cleaners all sound harmless enough when you're chucking them into the trash. But now you know.
Thomas Morton is a journalist producing a documentary for a web-based network called VBS.TV. He wanted to get a first-hand account of the growing ecological catastrophe, so he headed out deep into the Pacific.
It's a fairly long journey, and it's a pretty small boat, too. It takes a week to get out there. It's one of the furthest points from human contact in the world. I think the second remotest point of open water on the planet.
Morton sailed on the research vessel El Guido, which is owned by Charles Moore, an avid sailor. In 1997, Moore was returning from Hawaii to California following a yacht race when he decided to take a relaxed shortcut through the quiet and remote gyre. He noticed he couldn't look into the ocean in any direction without seeing floating garbage. Moore has since dedicated his life to studying the phenomenon.
Just to go ahead and let people know, this is a big amount of trash.
The area that's polluted is estimated at double size of Texas. It's a whole region of the ocean that's just totally infested with like little broken up bits of plastic. It's just like a confetti of chunks of garbage that takes up the better part of the open water. And then there's identifiable pieces of garbage like hockey sticks and Coke bottles and what have you that float by.
The problem with plastic is it doesn't biodegrade, it photodegrades, a process in which it is broken down by sunlight into smaller pieces, but they still remain plastics.
There's a ratio of plastic to plankton of about 6 to 1. That's roughly average. We pulled in samples that were like, where it was like 1,000 to 1, where it's overwhelmingly plastic. And when you go down into the water, like you can see, like it's like being in like a snow globe in certain sections, where you can see just like little chunks of like yellow and red floating around.
It's on a film on top of the ocean. Is it below the surface?
It sort of floats like near the surface. The soupy mess, like you see once you're like underwater and have a mask on. I came up out of the water once and had like little chunks in my mouth.
But the problem may be affecting more than just those who snorkel in the gyre.
Thomas, you said we are eating our own trash. Explain that.
Our crap ends up in the ocean. It breaks down. It gets eaten by jellyfish, smaller life forms, like who are filter feeders. Bigger fish eat those, and eventually we start eating these creatures.
In your report, Thomas, did you ever speak to any doctors about what the impact could be health-wise?
Yes, when we got to Hawaii, we met with a Dr. Frederick Vom Saal. The diseases he's linked it to are early onset diabetes, problems with the liver, kidneys, every major public health crisis that's hit the U.S. in like the last 30 years. He's seen evidence of exposure to the chemicals in these plastics in mice. Probably the scariest ones are the effects they can have on the reproductive system. It's scary as hell.
There is actually a study in Japan where women with elevated levels of bisphenol A, where the women who were repeatedly miscarrying, never able to have a successful pregnancy.
Research suggests that 80% of the trash in the ocean comes from land and river runoff, and the majority of that is just simply household and municipal waste. And the problem is growing at an alarming rate.
What do we do?
What do we do? There's no quick fix. Sitting in a plastic chair right now, this is our entire society, and in order to like start addressing this problem, we've got to reconfigure our society so that we use less plastic and somehow dispose of our waste in a way that it doesn't get out into the ocean and that it doesn't last for years and years.
All right, Thomas, thank you for terrifying us and for being on News to Me.
We should recycle because our garbage ends up in places like this. It also messes up the food chain because animals in the ocean digest all the trash that has been polluting our oceans. The smaller animals are then consumed by the larger animals, which are then consumed by us. And so basically we're eating our own trash. We are truly harming our Mother Earth because we are not taking the responsibility that we owe to our world to recycle.